Besides showing the critical tasks by clicking the option Critical Tasks on the Format tab, and besides showing the slack by ticking slack, you can also show things like late tasks simply by clicking this option. But what I want to look at now is how you format your Gantt chart so that it looks easy to read and impressive. The idea here is on the Format tab in the ribbon there are in fact a number of Gantt chart styles, and if I hit the More button you'll see that there's a bit of a collection. I can roll over these particular options, and if I click this option it will affect the style of the Gantt chart. The critical tasks tend to remain red, but you'll notice that other tasks are changing colour. If I was to take off the critical tasks and take off the slack and go back to the styles, then I'll see that not only are my non-critical tasks, but also my critical tasks are formatted equally. So there's a variety of styles you can choose from here. So I might just go one with a dark blue. And I might also turn back on my critical tasks. So you can look at the Gantt chart styles and see if they help improve the look. The other thing you can do on the Format tab in the ribbon is look at the Textiles. The Textiles button allows you to change the text style applied to all items or to particular items. For example, you might say that if it's a milestone task, you want it to have a certain font and a certain font size. And if it's a summary task, for example, what you want those to look like. So my summary task I might make Arial. And bold and 12, and I might change the color to orange and OK. And so the summary tasks appear orange, and I can always go undo if I don't like that. So have a look at the textiles. In the textiles you can change the font attributes for all text, or you can change the font attributes for certain elements of your project. In addition to textiles, you've also got grid lines. When I click on grid lines and go to grid lines again, I can actually format certain grid lines. Like for example, the project start date, I could make that go red and OK. And so we see this red dotted line, which is the project start date. I could make, if I go back to grid lines and grid lines again, I could make the project finish date a different color again and make it a dark green. And so there's the dark green for the finish date. You can go into grid lines and you can find a certain grid line and you can actually say how you would like it to look, and that includes the current date. So grid lines is worth having a look at as well. The layout button we've touched on once before, and that's when I wanted to not round bars to whole days. Some people will go into here because they want to see the date format, such as this one here, the 5th of the 7th, appear as a different format. They might like to see something that includes the year. They may also not like to see the linked lines, so they might choose this option here to not show the links. And I'll go OK. So my date format has changed and my links have disappeared. If I go back into layout, I can re-establish my links either to be curvy or to be straight angle. So I'm going to go curvy, which is the default, and OK. So control the layout of your Gantt chart using the layout button. You've also got bar styles. We looked at colouring a particular bar a certain colour in an earlier video when we applied an elapsed duration. But what we might do is format all bars. If you click on the Format button, you get the option Bar Styles, which means you're not just formatting a particular bar, you're actually formatting all the bars of a certain style. I might decide that I want to format my task, and what you can do here is you can change the shape of the beginning of the task, the shape at the end of the task, and the shape at the middle of the task. You can also place any text on the task above and beyond what you already have. So let's take something like a summary task. I might decide to change the shape at the beginning of my summary task to look like a sort of down arrow, and the end shape I might also change. I might decide that I want to make it solid and I want to choose a particular color, maybe a light blue, and a light blue, and the light blue as well. When I click OK, you can see that the summary task bars have been altered on my Gantt. So the idea is you can go into the bar styles and you can completely reconfigure the style of each type of bar, whether it be a project summary task, a summary task, or even a subtask or a milestone. The last thing I want to mention in this video is constraints. By default, all tasks will occur as soon as possible. But sometimes we want to change that default from as soon as possible to must start on a certain date or must finish on a certain date. To apply a constraint, we simply double-click a particular task. So I might decide to double-click row 5. When I double-click row 5 and go to Advanced, this is where you can change the constraint type from as soon as possible, which is the default, to must start on. To the right of that, I can then enter a date. So at the moment, it's supposed to start on the 29th of the 6th, but I'll say it must start on the 5th of June, and OK. This will immediately cause a change in my particular Gantt, as that task now must start on the 5th of June, which has caused a bit of a problem. So I'll go and undo. The sorts of constraints that you can apply if I double click a task and I go to Advanced and look at the constraint types are as late as possible or as soon as possible, finish no earlier than or no later than, must finish on, must start on, and start no earlier than or start no later than. You choose the constraint type that you would like and you set the date to the right. Sometimes we accidentally apply a constraint, and how we achieve this is by changing the start or the finish date in the Gantt. For example, I might decide that I want to select the colours not on the 20th of June, but in actual fact on the 22nd. As soon as I choose the 22nd, I've actually applied a constraint, and it shows here in the indicator column. The constraint that I've applied, whether I meant to or not, is that this task is to start no earlier than the 22nd of June, because I changed the start date. If I wish to remove the constraint so that it goes back to as soon as possible, again just double click the task, go to Advanced, change the constraint type to as soon as possible. As soon as I click OK, the constraint will disappear from the indicator column, and the task will go back to starting on the 20th of June, which is the soonest it can possibly start. So when you accidentally change the start date or the finish date, you are in fact applying constraints. This may cause problems, so you may wish to remove the constraints by applying the constraint type as soon as possible.